I mean, the thing about equity is kind of the universal solvent, right? You can bundle anything that has value into a corporate structure, then sell equity in the corporate structure, and as long as you have your governance ducks in a row, that equity is worth the fraction of the stuff that's in the corporate structure. Once the SEC permits that approach with tokens in the mix, at that point it becomes both theoretically and practically possible to tokenize anything that is an asset that holds value. You could have an SPV that has a single Magic the Gathering card in it, and then you could fractionalize and sell it. You could have an SPV that is, $25 billion worth of New York real estate, and it's currently regulated as a real estate investment trust. The problem that we're going to hit is basically this. Normal finance was not built with a rail like Zcash or Monero 2 clicks away from the fraud. So if you do some kind of large-scale fraud in regular finance and you exfiltrate the money, there's a pretty good chance that it can be clawed back from a network of correspondent banks. Eventually, the people that you stole from are likely to be able to track down not only the money, but also the people living off the money. In crypto, the diligence burden moves from post-facto to pre-facto, right? You have to nail down all of these risks operationally before the tokens are sold, because if you get scammed in crypto and somebody walks off with the money, they're going to throw it through a mixer, or they're going to throw it through Zcash or Monero or some ZK Snark thing on Ethereum, and then they are gone. So what it does is it massively incentivizes fraud. So I think what we're going to hit is a real disaster zone in America where the SEC will make it possible to tokenize things. People will go in with the same level of diligence that they use for things which are being done through the TradFi rails, particularly the payment rails. And then what you're going to discover is a whole bunch of scams that were not safe enough to run for criminals in the TradFi ecosystem will definitely be safe enough in the DeFi ecosystem, because when you manage to rip somebody off, you can escape with the money. And all of that stuff moves the diligence burden forward. And Mattereum is probably the most extreme approach to that forward diligence burden. The Mattereum system basically distributes 100% of the risk from the people that are buying the tokens onto a set of nominated, stable, proven solvent counterparties. So even if the person who is tokenizing the assets turns out to be a scammer, the token buyers are completely protected. And that is a very, very insurance-heavy model. I know we got a lot of people on the call that do insurance. It's a very, very, very heavy insurance model, because you can put an insurance policy and you can put a proof of solvency, proof of reserves on chain in a way that it is still very difficult to put, for example, equity or a proof that somebody is holding a gold bar on chain. So you kind of wind up with a network of trust, which is essentially, mutual distributed networked collateral systems. And those collateral systems act as underwriters so that if you do get scams, people are compensated. And then the diligence burden comes when those collateral pools are pricing the risk of somebody buying coverage from them. We designed that system 2017, 17, 18, 19, we designed that system. First customer was William Shatner from Star Trek in 2019. If you look at OpenSea, right, you will see a very large collection, like 80, 90 pieces, of physical Star Trek merchandise signed by Shatner, issued using the Mattereum system. Might be. I think 2019 we took them on. Maybe 2020 they launched their tokens, and it was very, very early, and people were very, very confused that these NFTs referred to a physical object, and it was just this thing of what? And then there was a whole bunch of people staring at them, and then a couple of years later, OpenSea exploded, and everybody was like, oh, and there they are. You could probably still find them. They're probably, I don't think anybody's ever tried to scrape the floor on those, but it's probably possible. We then did a bunch of legal legwork in the UK, so that system is now accessible in 170 countries via the auspices of the 1958 New York Convention on Foreign Arbitration Awards, and also the UK Jurisdiction Task Force Digital Dispute Resolution Rules. That stuff is world-class, airtight, commonly understood corporate law. So when the time comes to de-risk these deals and protect the token buyers, we are absolutely ready to do that underwriting machinery work, right? We ourselves are not underwriters, but, coordinating fleets of underwriters to be able to get the guarantees in place. We're ready to do it, and if the SEC would please put its roller skates on, we could get on with taking over the world.